Hello, my name is Lucas, this is a bit of lit, and I'm here to talk to you about Sherwood Anderson's Winesburg, Ohio. And I cannot tell you enough how much I love this book. It is not a traditional book, it's sort of a short story collection about Winesburg, Ohio, a short story cycle, I guess is what you might call it. That's what it's called on the back. Anyway, it has an afterword by Dean Koontz. Not recommended. I do love this cover though. I love the colors. I don't know why, but the afterword was not very good, in my opinion. But the short story cycle itself was just astounding for me. I mean, it just felt so raw. The kind of things that he's writing about early in the 20th century. From what this says in the back, this is something that really inspired Faulkner, Fitzgerald, and some other writers, because he was not afraid to tackle some tough subjects or tackle some things about sexuality or these weird idiosyncrasies that people have, and he has it set in a small town. And it just, if you grew up in a small town, of course there are people like this in the city, but city life is very different from living in a small town, especially in Midwest, I suppose. I'm sure even from Ohio to Iowa it's very different, but oh my god, it really felt like I was reading my own life. My favorite character is George Willard, who I just I can't believe how much I related to this guy. I would just like to read the last little bit. This is a character who wants out, who wants something more, wants something different in his life than what's expected of him and what he sees available to him, which I think lots of young people, I mean, I haven't lived in Iowa or the Midwest for a very, very long time, but I think lots of young people can relate to that. I certainly, when I was young, I mean, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and neither does George, but he knew that he wanted to get out, and I knew I wanted to get out. And yeah, it's not just George Willard that made me feel so connected to the book. It's all these different other characters, the way that they interact, the way that the space of the town is written, the feel of the town is just so visual in my mind. And I'm not a very visual reader, but I'd like to read when he, at the end, the final chapter is called Departure. And I'll just read the last 2 pages. On the station platform, everyone shook the young man's hand. More than a dozen people waited about. Then they talked of their own affairs. Even Will Henderson, who was lazy and often slept until 9, had got out of bed. George was embarrassed. Gertrude Wilmot, a tall, thin woman of 50 who worked in the Winesburg post office, came along the station platform. She had never before paid any attention to George. Now she stopped and put out her hand. In 2 words, she voiced what everyone felt. "Good luck," she said sharply, and then, turning, went on her way. Anyway, when the train came into the station, George felt relieved. He scampered hurriedly aboard. Helen White came running along Main Street, hoping to have a parting word with him, but he had found a seat and did not see her. When the train started, Tom Little punched his ticket, grinned, and, although he knew George well and knew on what adventure he was just setting out, made no comment. Tom had seen 1,000 George Willards go out of their town to the cities, out of their towns to the city. It was a commonplace enough incident with him. In the smoking car, where there was a man who had just invited Tom to go on a fishing trip to Sandusky Bay. He wanted to accept the invitation and talk over details. George glanced up and down the car to be sure no one was looking, then took out his pocketbook and counted his money. His mind was occupied with a desire not to appear green. Almost the last words his father had said to him concerned the matter of his behavior when he got to the city. "Be a sharp one," Tom Willard had said. "Keep your eyes on your money. Be awake, that's the ticket. Don't let anyone think you're a greenhorn. And then, after George counted his money, he looked out of the window and was surprised to see that the train was still in Winesburg. The young man, going out of his town to meet the adventure of life, began to think, but he did not think of anything very big or dramatic. Things like his mother's death, his departure from Winesburg, the uncertainty of his future life in the city, the serious and larger aspects of his life did not come into his mind. He thought of little things: Turk Smollett wheeling boards through the main street of his town in the morning, a tall woman, beautifully gowned, who had once stayed overnight at his father's hotel. Butch Wheeler, the lamplighter of Winesburg, hurrying through the streets on a summer evening and holding a torch in his hand. Helen White, standing by a window in the Winesburg post office and putting a stamp on an envelope. The young man's mind was carried away by his growing passion for dreams. One looking at him would not have thought him particularly sharp. With the recollection of little things occupying his mind, he closed his eyes and leaned back in the car seat. He stayed that way for a long time, and when he aroused himself and again looked out of the car window, the town of Winesburg had disappeared, and his life there had become but a background on which to paint the dreams of his manhood. I don't know. That part was really moving to me. My own departure was quite a bit different. I didn't have so many people sending me off. It just kind of happened. But I remember the last time I left my hometown, which I will never go to again, because my mother doesn't live there anymore. When I got into the car rental, or even when I rode in the car with my friend to leave for China, I had a similar feeling. When I was driving down the road, I won't say what the road is, but driving down the road, checking my mirrors, looking back, all that kind of stuff, seeing the water tower slowly fade away, just thinking like, I don't know, just remembering small little things. It's very moving to me. But, painting that description, painting dreams on the landscape, became a background on which to paint the dreams of his manhood. Just like, I felt it, man. And I did the same exact thing when I left with my friend who took me to Chicago. We had a great time there for a few days, and when I drove back to Chicago a couple of years later on my own in the rental car, just that. But also just this book, it got me. Okay, it got me. I can't really. I'm gonna make another video of this book a little more, focused. I'm just gushing, and it's been a month, but that ending just like right in my heart. But there's also these very interesting cast of characters in Winesburg, Ohio that again are a little bit different, but these little idiosyncrasies, they just, I remember someone like that. Yeah, I remember my teacher did that, or was like that, kind of strange in this way, this person, that. I love this book.